Village Board regular meeting of December 5th, 2016 to order. Roll call, please, Andy.
Balmas.
Present.
Hood.
Here.
Wilson.
Here.
Ross.
Here.
Garner.
Here.
Thorstensen.
Here.
6 present.
All right, please join me in the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. All right, good evening. Welcome. Glad you're here. First up is always public comment. If the public would like to address the board on an issue that's not on the agenda, you can state your name.
Hi, my name is Lauren. I live in Gurnee. I'm a Community Ambassador Supreme with American Rural Spirit Pageants. As a community service project, I am collecting donations for animal education and rescue in Libertyville, where I am also a youth club member. All donations will be given to AEAR to continue their work with rescuing, fostering, rehabilitating, and adopting out animals of all kinds. Thank you for helping to rescue animals who are in need. I would like to know if I could put one of my donation baskets in the Village Hall. Thank you.
Absolutely, Lauren. You did excellent. That's a very worthy cause. I know we were just at the holiday train supporting hungry children, and it's just as important to support animals too and make sure they're taken care of. So we would be very honored to have and help you out. Okay? Thank you. All right, any other public comments? All right, we're going to move on to approval of the consent agenda as presented.
So moved.
Motion by Trustee Balmas, second by Trustee Garner. Roll call, please, Andy.
Balmas.
Aye.
Hood.
Yes.
Wilson.
Aye.
Ross.
Aye.
Garner. Aye. Thorstensen.
Yes.
6 aye.
Motion carries. Patrick, please read the consent agenda into the record.
Item number 1, approval of the minutes from the November 21st, 2016 and November 28th, 2016 Village Board meetings. Item number 2, approval of renewing Microsoft Software Assurance Maintenance Agreement with CDWG at a price of $21,203.17, State of Illinois Central Management Services Contract. Item number 3, approval of payroll for period ending November 26, 2016 in the amount of $1,050,257.39. Item number 4, approval of payroll transfer journal for period ending November 26, 2016 in the amount of $1,014,969.41. Item number 5, approval of bills for period ending December 5, 2016 in the amount of $946,693.91.
Thank you, Patrick. Do I have a motion to approve the consent agenda as read into the record? Motion by Trustee Garner.
Second.
Second by Trustee Balmas. Roll call, please, Andy.
Balmas.
Aye.
Hood.
Yes.
Wilson.
Aye.
Ross.
Aye.
Garner. Aye. Thorstensen.
Yes.
6 aye.
All right. Motion carries. We'll move on to petitions and communications. I think this is a first. We don't have any.
No, not tonight.
All right. So then we're going to move on to reports. And tonight we have a presentation by Police Chief Kevin Woodside on something that's been discussed by the police department and was included in the budget and approved. But now we're putting the real thing in action here. So the Chief has a lot of information for us tonight. So thank you, Kevin.
Thank you very much, Mayor. I'll try and be as brief and persuasive as Lauren was. I'm not sure if I can, though. There's no suspense. Here is the finish of the presentation right here, the body-worn camera proposal and the conducted electrical weapon proposal. In June, when village staff met with the board to update the strategic plan, I asked to slow the timeline for implementing this program down. We were taking a patient approach to not only selecting the right equipment and service provider, but also to allow other police departments to pioneer these programs in order to learn from their experience. So we're at action step number 6 on this slide tonight. There has been no public demand from our community or a call from village leadership for officer-worn body cameras. but there is no denying that there is an increasing general expectation that police are held more accountable and operations are more transparent through the use of video. We've been using squad car video for more than a decade, and nothing from our experience has pointed to a need for more video to ensure accountability. Our police officers are doing the right things, and we've been capturing that on video for many years. While any increase in transparency and accountability is good, there is no demand for it, and a case cannot be made that body-worn cameras are a necessity for the Gurnee Police Department. So my recommendation then relies on the benefits internally to our police department and our community, which are many. Video is the surest way to resolve a complaint against an officer. It is not uncommon for a citizen to react emotionally to an encounter with a police officer that can be quickly resolved with an instant replay to review. The objectivity of video can be invaluable in resolving an emotional interaction that is remembered subjectively. In rarer cases, we've been able to protect our officers from false accusations, some even resulting in criminal charges for perjury or filing a false report. And no one is perfect, and there are certainly opportunities for police officers to improve. Video of their interactions with the public provide objective feedback and a valuable tool for training and continual improvement. The ability to resolve serious complaints or having video in use of force situations will serve to protect our officers and our village from liability. Although the cost of implementing and maintaining a body-worn camera system is considerable, it is inexpensive insurance for the potential liability that dangerous encounters present. And finally, squad video has long been valuable evidence, primarily in DUI enforcement and other traffic offenses. Interview room video is required in major investigations and is a very valuable tool. Body-worn camera evidence, likewise, will be a useful tool in criminal prosecutions. During 2015, volunteer officers field tested 8 different camera systems from 6 different vendors. Field testing concluded before January 1st of this year, the effective date of the Illinois Law Enforcement Officer Worn Body Camera Act. The new law made body-worn cameras voluntary, but once we made the decision, we were bound by all the provisions of the law, and not all of the cameras were able to meet the minimum requirements, including a 30-second pre-event recording buffer, a 10-hour battery life, and 90-day video retention. So we put our program on hold temporarily. The criteria that we used for evaluating the cameras were, are they reliable and easy to use? How durable is the equipment? How is the quality of the video? How stable and reliable is the vendor? How are we going to store all the data files? How will retention and redaction of videos be managed? How are we going to get video files to our prosecutor? And how are we going to respond to citizen requests? The Axon Body 2 by Taser has all the features that we need. It has a powerful cloud-based platform for handling evidence and a very strong company standing behind it. 34 major cities and over 6,000 agencies nationwide have chosen this same camera system. Evidence.com is that powerful cloud platform. Redaction and editing tools are available while retaining originals for evidence, and the prosecutors can be given access directly to the evidence. The company is owned by Taser, an international corporation with a long history of working with law enforcement. All evaluation criteria favored the Axon Body 2 by Taser, and during discussion with them, they presented a program that would provide Taser-conducted electrical weapon systems at no additional cost. So this began an unexpected discussion on the Taser less lethal weapon as an option for Gurnee police officers. Some of the considerations in moving forward with this: considering the tens of thousands of interactions that Gurnee police officers have with the people in our community every year, including thousands of tickets and arrests that conclude peacefully and compliantly, we are very fortunate that the situations requiring any level of force number only 100 or so per year. The chart shows the data from 2014 and 2015. As you can see, about 60% of the time, we're just confronted with verbal noncompliance, passive resistance, or some kind of non-physical intimidation. 19% of the time, force is used in response to an escape attempt or resistance to arrest. The remaining 19% of the time, our police officers are required to use force in response to active aggression toward them. This amounts to an average of 20 times per year. The chart indicates the number of officers involved, not the number of incidents. It's a small number, but each one has the potential for disaster. These are situations where we would definitely be served by having video, and they are also situations where we must train and equip our officers for success, to make good decisions and have the tools to make sure that force situations are resolved as quickly and safely as possible. A police officer's force options begin with his or her simple presence and verbal commands. Officers are trained and are very skilled at de-escalating tension and reducing the need for any level of force. When verbal efforts fail to gain compliance, an officer currently has several non- or less lethal force options available, including physical force, their baton, or OC spray, pepper spray. If none of these options is appropriate or effective, an officer may have to resort to the use of deadly force. The gap between the available less lethal options and deadly force can be filled safely and efficiently with a tool called a conducted electrical weapon, commonly referred to as a taser, which I believe provides an important less lethal option that we should provide our officers. The taser works by firing 2 electrodes up to 15 feet to deliver a 5-second incapacitating current. But the taser can be effective even without firing it, often gaining voluntary compliance simply by drawing the weapon and positioning the laser aiming system. The weapon also has a warning arc, a feature that emits an electrical sound, also effective in gaining compliance without applying any force at all. When less lethal force is necessary, taser may be the safest option available. This slide shows the results of a 2009 Wake Forest University study showing the likelihood of injury in police use of force situations. You can see that taser is 99.75% of offenders subject to taser had no significant injuries. It is possible that this option is so safe and effective that it could eventually replace all other less lethal options. History has also shown that a reduced likelihood of injury not only applies to suspects, but also to our own police officers, as they use a force option that does not require them to go hands-on with a suspect. In our history, we have awarded the Purple Heart 7 times for serious, often career-ending injuries suffered during an attempt to take an offender into custody. Since 2004, 34 officers have been injured in relation to apprehending suspects, with a total of $2.3 million in workers' compensation experience. This chart shows the experience of the City of Houston Police Department over time in reducing workers' compensation, a 93% reduction after the implementation of their TASER program. Gurnee is one of the few police departments in Lake County not yet equipped with tasers, and I have heard from more than one area police chief telling me that the TASER program was the single greatest workers' comp reduction program they've ever seen. While it's certainly not about the money, that is a secondary benefit of keeping our officers safe with a tool like this. So the bottom line, this is the cost for 60 officer body-worn cameras and 60 TASER electrical weapons. The 5-year program provides for new and updated camera equipment every 2.5 years and replacement TASERs for every 5 years. You can see the additional startup costs in year 1, and then there are recurring costs that amount to $180 per officer for an evidence.com license and $99 per month for both the camera and the weapon system per officer. I will be back at a future meeting to ask you to approve this expense, but for tonight, I'd just like to answer any questions that you have. And Commander Farrow, who piloted the program of doing our field research, is here, and he does have a demonstration model that you can look at the TASER weapon if you're interested tonight.
Chief, can you, since you and I had met on this and talked and got me comfortable, can you talk a little bit about your discussions internally and how it was received for the board's benefit?
Sure. I've had a number of discussions. I've met with representatives from the Fraternal Order of Police to talk about policy implications, and they've had a few questions, but nothing significant. We've been able to adjust our policy accordingly. I've also met as a group with the entire department and done a number of visits to shift changes to talk about both the body cameras and the taser when that became a topic of discussion. There is no significant resistance to a camera program in Gurnee. They're ready for it. I heard very many times that we're not concerned about having a camera on when we're doing our jobs because they know that they're doing their jobs well. Some of the concerns were about remembering to turn the camera on. So one of the appealing things about the taser system is they have an automatic sensor that goes on the squad car light package. So you activate the overhead lights, the camera automatically turns on. They have a sensor on the taser itself, so if the taser is activated, then the camera turns on. They're in development with a sensor that would go on the officer's holster. So if they were to draw their pistol, the camera would turn on. So high-risk events can activate the camera without the officer having to remember to do it. So that did cause some anxiety with several officers, just the concern it's another piece of equipment that I have to work with. Overall, we've had video in squad cars for over a decade, and we've had a great deal of success with that. Officers are very comfortable with video, and so they're very aware that there is no public pressure or no political pressure on us to do this. So the question that I asked with staff and with all of our officers was, is this something that would be useful for us? Is this a tool that would be valuable? And there is a strong consensus for that being the case.
Go ahead, Trustee Balmas.
You said that you would have 60 cameras and 60 tasers. So is each camera and each taser assigned to a police officer, or they don't swap them out from shift to shift?
Initially, when we drafted the proposal for the cameras, we were looking at 40 cameras with the intent that there would be some switching of those cameras out. The deeper we got into it and the more we learned about this, the difficulty in reassigning those cameras, because the evidence and the video is attached to the officer. There were challenges with charging the batteries. You put it in the cradle to recharge, and if somebody's using it right away, it's not fully charged to last for 12 hours. So it became apparent to us that trading of cameras was not going to be an effective solution. So we did make the decision that every officer would have their own camera. The addition of the taser weapons themselves, it is easier to trade those and exchange those between officers, but the way that this was proposed by Taser, it was a camera and a taser together in one system, and it was no more expensive than the cameras alone, so we really didn't lose anything by having an individual weapon for each officer.
So therefore, then, since recharging, is there going to be a specific recharging station for each? So when they finish a shift, they plug it in and it stays there until their next shift? There's
a cradle that they would plug it into. It would not only charge the camera, but it would also wirelessly download the video into the cloud, so that information then would be available. So that would all happen at the same time. And then when that officer returns to work after it's been charging for 12 hours, they would simply pull it out, and it's registered to them. It's the video. It knows that the video coming from that is from that officer. So
that's something that would be part of their routine then, is to log it in and then log it back out again, or however.
Correct.
So that
it'd have
it's
their
charged.
name on it. It'd be on the place where they left it. It would be individually assigned to that officer.
Question, Trustee Thornton.
So does the police officer wear both, or both of those devices, or do they remain in the car while they're not on foot?
Both would be worn by the officer. The camera, there's two different options with the camera. One is kind of a glasses mounted. The other is mounted probably on the vest. There'll be some options as to where those can be mounted. The taser itself is a weapon that we would determine where officers are going to wear them. I mean, one of the training considerations is making sure that there's no mistaking that for the pistol. So that training has to be one where there's no muscle memory confusion. You'd be drawing it completely differently, perhaps even with a weak hand rather than your dominant gun hand, and instilling some things in training to make sure. you didn't mistake that for your pistol. So there have been a lot of internal discussions, but no decisions made about that. But having the taser worn on the external vest carrier or on the duty belt on the opposite side of the pistol would be the two options most likely that we would explore.
Trustee Garner?
Will a taser, when fired, will it penetrate heavy clothing?
That was one of the weaknesses early on with taser, but they have developed technology that makes it more likely to penetrate heavy clothing. But that is one of the ways that, if it can't make good contact with the skin with both of those probes, then that can defeat the weapon. No weapon is perfect, and that is one of the vulnerabilities of the taser.
Still afraid of it.
Yeah, me too.
I don't know if I'd rather get shot or not.
But on a taser, though, under some of what I've heard is like under a drug-induced, that it's not always very effective, to subdue. Is that the case with the tasers, that when they're high on something that doesn't seem to?
They are very effective.
Either.
They're not perfect. So there are situations where someone can overcome the effects of that. Generally, that's because there hasn't been a good contact made with the probes.
Okay.
But no weapon is perfect, especially when you get somebody in a significantly altered state and they're impervious to pain.
Okay.
Trustee Thorstensen?
And one more. So how commonplace are these two devices? Are they more common with our newer officers that have just come out of the academy?
Every officer that we have brought in on a lateral transfer has had experience with tasers, and honestly we're surprised that we don't have them here and are looking forward to that change. If your question is specifically about video, I would say younger officers are very comfortable and very competent with the use of video and case development and using the video as a tool to help in prosecution. But, back in the day when we introduced squad car video, that I think we crossed the hurdle of being wary of having video on all the time, and there's a much higher comfort level with this than there was back then when we made that change.
Thank you. Very thorough.
Just,
Trustee Bowman?
are the detectives also then going, is this just for officers, or will the detectives also be wearing body cameras?
The detectives will have them because they often are in uniform, so primarily that's when they would be wearing the body camera. But in their role as a detective in plain clothes doing follow-up, they would not always have the camera on. Again, that's another thing that we'll address in policy, but we're making sure that they have them so that when they're in uniform, they'll definitely have both pieces of equipment available.
Thank you.
Trustee Garner?
If the probes penetrate you and make contact with skin, how long is the electrical charge? Is it one jolt, or is it for minutes, or?
It is designed to deliver a 5-second charge. So that is something that's not under the control of the officer. If another charge is necessary, the officer would have to pull the trigger again, and all of that is recorded, so we would have data. That was the instrument itself records how many times a charge was applied, but it's designed to deliver a 5-second incapacitating charge. It's not simply pain compliance. It attacks the large muscle groups and incapacitates you to the point that you can be, in most cases, taken under control without a necessity of another application.
And what is the likelihood of being killed by a taser?
It's very, very small. That was one of the concerns that was early on, that there was cardiac interruption and some other medical problems associated with it, but over time, it's proven to be very, very safe.
And I'll remind some of you, not everyone realizes, we've had some extremely serious career-ending disabilities from our officers having nothing in between, to subdue someone without resorting to a gun. And this really does give them something and helps protect them from ripping a shoulder, tearing a knee, some of those kind of things, which workman's comp is very expensive. And we don't like to see their careers ended, so they really had no other choice when trying to subdue someone. So that was a positive factor. And the cameras, it's become very common for the public to film everything, and that can be edited and misconstrued or not the right angle. We really need those cameras, as Kevin pointed out. The benefit of is for our own officers' protection. So we have a video record of what happened from the officer's perspective. It's not uncommon for someone to come and make a complaint and they pull up video on their cell phone of one angle, but you're like, okay, well, what about from the officer's angle and stuff? So it really is some mitigation for us in the event that there's a lawsuit or an incident to protect everybody involved in some of these stops. So that was really another strong benefit that is why Kevin's bringing it forward. So if there's no other questions, then by consensus, Chief should move forward and bring it forward for us to take formal action on. Okay. All right. Very good.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. I'm glad we waited and got the right product, too. All right, we have no old business.
Correct.
All right, so we're going to move on to new business. First item is approval of issuing a Class 1 liquor license to Christian Kayat to operate Chicago Wood Fire Pizza Company at 6170 Grand Avenue, unit number 337.
Sure. So the Kites are working on opening a new restaurant in the former Ruby Tuesday spot. It's called Chicago Wood Fire Pizza Company. Nearing completion. As part of that operation, they're looking for a Class 1 liquor license. So that's sale of alcoholic liquor for consumption on premise where sold. Ruby Tuesdays previously had a Class 1 that's still available and out there, so that license can be transferred to the Kites, hence the reason there is no ordinance to amend the municipal code since that's available. So the police department did their background check and found nothing that popped up to preclude issuance, so it's before you for consideration.
Questions?
Make a motion to approve.
Motion by Trustee Balmas, second by Trustee Garner. Roll call, please, Andy.
Balmas.
Aye.
Hood.
Yes.
Wilson.
Aye.
Ross.
Aye.
Garner.
Aye.
Thorstensen.
Yes.
6 aye.
All right, motion carries. Item number 2, approval of ordinance 2016-81,
81.
authorizing the waiver of certain building permit fees for the expansion of NIPRO Chicago, located at 955 Tri-State Parkway, Gurnee. Pat?
Sure. Ellen was our point person on this, so I'm going to let her walk you through this project and how we got to today.
Well, I will as soon as I can pull the presentation up. Here we go. Good to go. Last spring, we were approached by NIPRO, which is in Tri-State Corporate Park, regarding a Phase 1 expansion that they were in the pretty advanced planning stages for. That expansion would add 80,000 square feet and bring 50 to 60 new jobs to town by 2019. In addition to this Phase 1, they shared with us that there were 2 to 3 additional phases of expansion in the works, but the location decision had not been made for those subsequent phases. NIPRO is owned by Jabil Corporation, which is a global concern. So when they are looking at expansion, the location options are pretty much unlimited. They could go anywhere. Right now, the 2 strongest contenders for this particular project happen to be in North Carolina. The city and the county in the Asheville area have offered grants to offset permit fees and additional taxes. So those are 2 of their strongest competitors, and the NIPRO team here has been successful in lobbying to bring Phase 1 to Gurnee, but as they look down the road, that's a little more uncertain. And so they've asked us to engage with them in a partnership long-term to help them make the case for corporate investment here in Gurnee. So as a result of that conversation with NIPRO back in May, we pulled together the county and the state, the ComEd and NICOR representatives, and I think sent NIPRO away with the feeling that we would work together as a team to get them the support that they need to continue investing in Gurnee. So as a result, I think, of that conversation, they decided to solidify and trigger phase 1 and even pulled some of the phase 2 spending into phase 1 so that that project grew from $10 to $15 million in Gurnee, which should be up and running by mid-2017. The building permits for this have now been submitted, and so now that we have that sort of general scope of the project, we're able to bring to you a request to waive a portion of those fees. The first $20,000 we're recommending as a 100% waiver. During the building permit review process, it was identified that a portion of water main would be best placed in a different location. No direct benefit to NIPRO, but definitely a public benefit to the park. They agreed to do that with no hesitation, so we'd like to reimburse them for that $20,000. And then the remaining fees would be waived 50% to basically bring the total up to a maximum of $50,000, which we think they will probably hit because the estimated total fees are $80,000. So when you factor in that rebate or that waiver, the village will still be bringing in upfront revenue of $50,000, and NIPRO will as well. So we're thrilled that they're expanding. We hope that this is sort of a nice signal of our commitment to the partnership. And we have Steve Carlson and Randy Greiner here with us to answer any questions from NIPRO. Steve is the general manager, and Randy is the project lead.
This keeps good jobs in Gurnee and brings even more good jobs to Gurnee, which is extremely critical to our economic viability. And Ellen was amazing, and
Thank you.
Part of her role is to reach out to the businesses and find out what's going on. And without her, we wouldn't have been able to bring all this together and get the right parties involved and really make that commitment to NIPRO to keep them here.
Well, thank you, and I'd like to say that NIPRO approached us in a way that's very unusual. They approached us really, truly, sincerely with a spirit of partnership, not brinksmanship, not we're going to leave. How can we figure this out together for the long term? And we really appreciated that very much.
Yeah, no, we're delighted that you're staying here and expanding, and it's a win for everybody. And the things that they're helping us with the water main and that is valuable to us. And so. Trustee Wilson?
Motion to approve.
Second.
Okay. All right, I have a motion from Trustee Wilson, second from Trustee Thorstensen. Roll call, please, Andy.
Thomas,
Aye.
Hood,
Yes.
Wilson,
Aye.
Ross,
Aye.
Garner,
Aye.
Thorstensen.
Yes.
6 aye.
All right, motion carries, and we'll look forward to that open house and grand opening in May. All right, thank you.
Thanks.
All right, item number 3, approval of ordinance 2016-82, authorizing the execution of a professional service agreement in the amount of $222,000 between the Village of Gurnee and Strand Associates related to design engineering services for the Knowles Road Water Tower.
Sure. So we continue to work towards bringing the Knowles Road Water Tower to fruition. We had $100,000 in this year's capital budget to start the design engineering process. So to get this going, Scott and his staff reached out to 5 firms with the capacity to complete this work, received information from them, and then ran through an evaluation process. When they finished that process, Strand rose to the top, provided us a quote of $222,000 for the design engineer work. So this includes designing the plans and the contract specifications for the tower itself. And then we've got some pressure reducing valves along Hunt Club Road that need to be designed and installed, and then a new pump station on Almond Road. So they would do all the design engineering work related to those infrastructure improvements. Going in, we knew it was going to be over the $100,000 we had in the budget. If you looked at this year's budget, in the CIP plan, we had $100,000 in for design engineering this year, and then I had $100,000 earmarked for design engineering next year. So that was a known. So we'll have to bump next year's budget by a little bit, but not too much. So looking to get started on this work. We've worked with Strand in the past and been very pleased with their work. So staff is recommending to move forward with this contract to get the design engineering underway. And then we're probably looking at 2018 construction. So a year of design and permitting and working with the state, JAWA, et cetera.
Big project, long timeline. And we've been talking about it for 10 years. Questions from the trustees?
Make a motion.
Motion by trustee Garner.
Second.
Second by trustee Ross. Roll call, please. Andy?
Thomas.
Aye.
Hood.
Yes.
Wilson.
Aye.
Ross.
Aye.
Garner.
Aye.
Thorstensen.
Yes.
6 aye.
All right, motion carries. We don't need the executive session tonight, so we don't get the cookies that we always get in executive session. There's no need for it
Yeah,
at
no
this
need
point.
for executive session.
Yeah. So I will reopen the floor to the public. Anybody would like to address the board? If not, do I have a motion to adjourn? Motion by trustee Balmas. Second. I'll give it to trustee Wilson. All right, all in favor say aye.
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 We are adjourned.